Hey everybody, this is Dave here at Pulp Alley, and today we are talking about the Pulp Alley tabletop adventure game. Specifically, we had some questions about perilous areas and difficult areas, so we're going to talk about perilous areas and difficult areas a little bit more, and we're actually going to show some examples as well and talk about some other fun stuff. So, if you want to follow along, perilous areas and difficult areas are pretty much covered back here on page 41. It's during the movement area or the movement section. And perilous areas and difficult areas are there, as well as giving you some ideas. One of the fun things that I tried to include is if you flip over here to page 44, there are a bunch of examples of some of the rules there on page 44. So you can kind of see a lot of different examples about how it's supposed to work. So, but we're going to just go through a few ideas today. Mainly this comes from Ruben, who wrote us a question, and he's talking about, let's say, Phantom Ace is in a difficult area, and he wants to move over 6 inches. When does he check? That's an awesome question, Ruben. And what we're going to talk about here is really the basics of moving. And let's say that Phantom Ace, for whatever reason, we're going to call this a difficult area. So what you do when you're moving is you should really tell, your opponent what your destination is, how far you're going to be moving. So if I said I'm going to move over to that button right there, if I start off in a difficult area, I'm going to have to check as soon as I start moving because I have declared that I'm moving over 6 inches. If I was only going to move 6 inches or less, then I wouldn't have to check. If my intention is to reach this button right here, then it's well over 6 inches away, and I'm going to have to check as soon as I start moving. And there's several ways it could have been done, but I'll just explain the reason why we do it that way, and it is basically the idea that to get from point A to point B, he's not waiting to start running once he gets halfway, right? You're not walking 6 inches and then going, oh, well, I need to get another 6 inches, so I better run now, right? The idea is that to get from point A to point B, that he's running all that way. And because he is choosing to run, that's when accidents happen. So if you're choosing to move fast, if you're choosing to move over 6 inches, that is your goal, that is your intention, then you're going to have to check for that difficult area as soon as you start moving. Now, if the difficult area was over here, and there wasn't a way necessarily for me to just go around it easily, if there was a big difficult area there, then I would check as soon as I touched it, as soon as I came into contact with it. That's when I would check for it. So let's also talk about encountering multiple perilous areas or multiple difficult areas. So the rules pretty clearly state during your activation, you cannot encounter more than one peril due to the same perilous area. So let's say for whatever reason we had 3 different perilous areas that had been placed for maybe like a fire had broken out in the city for whatever reason. We're going to call these perilous areas. So let's say Phantom Ace started over here, and really when you see something like this where all 3 of them are linked like this, these become one perilous area. These are not 3 individual perilous areas. So if Phantom Ace wanted to move over this direction, he could move through the perilous area to here, whatever 6 inches was, and he does not have to roll for each individual perilous area, because when multiple perilous areas are stacked up like that, then it just is handled as one single perilous area. So in other words, if he activated right here where he was, touching two of these templates, he is not in two perilous areas. He is in a perilous area. So whether or not it's 2 or 3 or whatever, it doesn't matter. It just forms one large blob. Now, but what about this? Check this out. What if I leave this perilous area? What if I'm trying to move over this direction? What if I check for my peril, right? And then I pass it and I get out of the perilous area, and then for whatever reason I decide to go back in it. Well, guess what? Now I'm going to have to take another peril because I left the perilous area, I was safe, I was out of it, and then I chose to go back in. All right, I hope that makes sense. The intention is to kind of minimize the number of times that you have to take multiple perils in your actions or during your movement. So we actually didn't want you to have to draw for like 3 perils. Okay, well now I'm in 3 perilous areas and I'm going to have to take 3 different perils. We don't really want to play it that way. So if you're in a perilous area, you draw for it and you go. There are going to be times, and it's really pretty darn rare, that you can leave a perilous area and then move into a different perilous area and then have to take that second peril, but hopefully that makes sense. So let's talk about rooftops, because I think that'll be kind of fun. So that was one of the questions that Ruben had. It says, Phantom Ace account as a peril being within 1 inch of a roof edge. He passes and then leaps to the other roof. Does he have to encounter another peril or not? So let's set that up. So I think, again, it kind of gets down to explaining what is the peril that you're actually rolling for. For moving on the rooftops, I really like to call the perils just as part of the move. So let's say I just wanted to move about a 6-inch and I wanted to try and get across that gap over here. So as soon as I came, if you said that the area within an inch is perilous, then I would roll for that as soon as I came into that perilous area. And if I passed it, I would continue my move over there and I would only face the one peril. That is all part of it. And you don't really have to assume that he's always jumping across. There could be cables, there could be boards, right? You watch those old serials and just crazy stuff like that happens. It's not always just a mad leap across. So I would typically just count that as a single perilous area and move them across with one peril there. Now, there's plenty of times that we might call the rooftops difficult and make the leap across a peril. And if you're doing that, again, you could just say that if he's not moving over 6 inches, then moving up here isn't a problem. But as soon as he goes across, then he has to roll for that peril, and he finishes his move over there. Let's see. I hope I covered everything there. If he passes, does he have to roll for a second peril or not? Normally not. Normally, the way I would play it is I would not normally require them to roll for 2 different perils. I would just make it all part of that move. Just like if someone is jumping off of a moving vehicle and jumping onto a moving train, I would not do that as 2 separate perils. So I would not require a peril to get off the vehicle and then to get on the truck. I just think that gets kind of tedious when you do it like that. So personally, I prefer to do it as one single peril. You know, that's how I prefer to do it. You may prefer to do multiple perils, and you know what? If that's how your group wants to do it, and you think there's more fun in that, then by all means do it that way. Make sure you just decide that sort of thing ahead of time. I think that's all for this video. If I left something unexplained or if you have any questions about this, make sure and leave them down in the comments. While you're at it, get subscribed to our little channel. I wanted to remind you that we are going to be doing a live video on Sunday at 2 p.m. Central Time with Lee and Melanie over at Battle Bunker HQ, and that'll be on their channel. So I'll try to leave a link below if you'd like to join us over there for an interview, just a conversation about Pulp Alley and other games, and just stuff in general. Then I hope you'll take the time to join us at 2 p.m. on Sunday. And of course, we'll still have our live game on Sunday too. We'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.